There we go.
Hi there.
Welcome, Connie. How are you?
Very, very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Very good. I'm really excited for this chat.
Good, good. Me too, me too.
Yeah. It's just I feel like it's so funny timing because I just as like last week stumbled upon Surviving Death and
Ah,
on Netflix that documentary, and I didn't put one and two together in terms of your association with them and being certified by their foundation and just that connection. And so it just really got me excited about the prospect of discussing mediumship in context of healing and how we can leverage this modality to come into deeper connectedness with who we are
right,
and healing from life's happenings.
right,
So
right.
anyway, welcome,
Thank,
welcome.
thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? See me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. Um, so today is just, you might have seen with a couple of the other partner interviews I've done, but it's really just an opportunity for people to get to know you
Right.
better and for you to share a bit about your story, how you've come into the work you do, what exactly you do.
Mm-hmm.
I think, psychic mediumship is kind of an umbrella term that people still are kind of confused about. So I'd love for you to share that with us. Um,
Absolutely.
and just to provide any insight that you'd like to impart in our community so they can get a better flavor of who you are.
Okay,
Um,
great.
yeah, so if that is okay with you, I'd like to just kick things off by asking you to give us a bit of your story. I know that you've had some near-death experiences, which I'd love to get into.
Right.
Um, so yeah, if you can, we can start with you there. That'd be great.
Okay, great. I'll try to keep it to the condensed version because of course, there's a lot of
Sure.
stuff that's happened from the time I was born to get me to this point today. But I started having an awareness of spirit as a child. I was about 4 years old. And it came in the way of, I'm originally from upstate New York, from the Poughkeepsie, Wappingers Falls area. And we had a laundry room in the basement downstairs. And I would follow my mom down on Saturday mornings, which was laundry day. And then one day, as I'm descending the stairs, I see an old man in the corner of the room. So of course this like startles me, and I just kind of scurry along behind my mom and do the laundry and I don't say anything. And then, in my child mind, I'm thinking it must have been a shadow, my imagination or whatever. This happened a couple of times. Every weekend we went down, I saw this man standing there. The third or fourth time as I was going back up the stairs, I turned around to look. And, my mom looked at me and she said, "What are you looking at?" And I'm pointing at the old man. And my mom's like, "There's nothing there. Come on, come on." So then I'm thinking, what the heck is going on, right? So the funny part about this story is where the old man was standing was in front of a door that behind that door was the furnace and all the pipes and stuff like that. And my dad has instilled the living fear of God in me, like never open that door, never go back there. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this man lives down there. This must be like some family secret. Nobody wants me to talk about it because why wouldn't my mom acknowledge this man standing there? So I never said anything. So, I think, Spirit's very clever. So I think they probably figured, well, this is a bit overwhelming. She doesn't really get it. She's not understanding. So I didn't see him again. But what happened shortly after that is I had this beloved little stuffed animal called Leah. It was a little lion cub that I had gotten around 4 years old for Christmas. And of course, it was that toy that, the child always takes everywhere they go. So this was my little lion cub friend. Well, all of a sudden, I thought Leah could talk because I was hearing spirit, but it came in the form of thinking, something I was comfortable with, something I felt safe with, right? It was just little words here and there. Like I'd hear the phone would ring and I'd hear, "Oh, that's grandma," or your dad's about to walk through the door. Just little things like knowing things, right? I didn't get the lotto numbers or anything like that, but I was just hearing little things here and there. And then a lot of the times, as you hear, when children start to attend school, they sort of, their psychic senses become dulled, right? So that's what happened to me. I went into first grade. I didn't see or hear anymore. But what was happening now is I just started to know things. So I pretty much sailed all through high school. I was about a straight A student. I never studied. I never brought a book home. I just knew things. Things just came to me naturally. And I still didn't think anything of it, right? I didn't think there was anything different about me. I didn't come from a family that knew about psychics or mediums or talked about this thing. So this wasn't in my wheelhouse or frame of reference. So I just kind of carried on. Um, as I became a teenager, I started like having premonitions, and I would be, in the mall and see somebody passing and see like a vision of like maybe a restaurant. And I started getting curious, like, what's going on? And so I started stopping and asking, like, oh, do you know about Frank's Pizzeria? And the person would say, oh, that's my family business, And I'm like, well, this is odd, but I still didn't think anything of it. So kind of fast forward, in my early 20s, I had my first near-death experience. I had an allergic reaction to medication. All of them were due to allergic reactions or bad reactions to medication. But the first one landed me, in the hospital in, a state of anaphylaxis. And the next thing I remember is I was sitting on the floor, my legs crossed like Indian style, and this figure was walking toward me. I couldn't make out a face, but just like a glowing being. And they dropped this big book into my lap. It was huge. It was like, took up my whole lap. And I just remember the binding being very old, like worn leather. And the pages were like glowing, like this white, yellow, golden glow. And it would like went straight up to the ceiling, or to the heavens or whatever. It just went straight up. And as I looked at this book, I could see from the time I was born to my present day life. It was just like the pages were going flip, 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 like really, really fast. So I came out of, the whatever I was under the state of medication. And I remember telling my mom about this cool dream that I had and, describing some scenes and pictures that I saw, and she verified what I had seen. And again, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't know at the time I had some kind of form of what they call a life review. So something must have happened with the medication or reaction at that, time, who knows, right? So again, didn't think anything of it. A couple years later, the second NDE, which I feel was the most medically intense and kind of, I feel, got me on my, path here. I was working in New York City, and again, taking some medication. I was having a reaction. I got rushed to New York Cornell Hospital when I went in, and I went into ventricular cardiac arrest. So I flatlined, and I had an experience of, floating out of my body, watching the doctors and nurses work on me in the room. Next thing you know, I'm in this tunnel. And to me, I would describe it very much, if you've ever had an MRI, that was the space that I felt. I was in a small, closed space like that. But I felt it was like if you've ever been on one of those Disney, virtual rides where you're going, fast but slow at the same time, like warp speed into like a wormhole, let's say. That's what I kind of felt like I was doing. And I was going on my back, feet first, into this, bright light. I wasn't afraid. I was actually excited. The strange thing that I remember, though, was this humming noise. I just felt this vibration that was like this. It was a loud humming noise, but a silent humming noise at the same time. I really don't know how to describe it, but it like reverberated through my whole body, right? And I remember thinking, I was excited, I was happy, I was peaceful. And then as my feet went toward that, little space where I could see the glow, I call what I felt like, imagine like your feet sinking into jello. Okay. So that's kind of like my feet imprinted into this. I don't know what it was, but it felt like, to me, jello. And at that moment, they used the defibrillators, and I must have came back. So that's what I remember about that experience. But interestingly enough, enough, when I recovered and went back to work, I thought, okay, well, that was interesting, right? But something changed, and I didn't realize it at the time. And what was happening is I worked in New York City. We had like a, half an hour lunch break, and I would go to one of three places. It was like routine, right? Everything's a rush. If you've ever lived in New York City, everything is, you got to take the subway, you got to get back. So hurry up, go to this place, grab your lunch, go back to your desk and eat. Well, after this experience, all of a sudden, one day I just found myself going down different streets. I wasn't going to one of my two or three places that I normally went. And I found myself outside a psychic place. And I was drawn to go in. And I was like, well, what goes on here? I asked the guy, and he's like, oh, they're readers. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got a reading. Well, I was fascinated by this. Something just pulled me right into this. Like, there's something about this. There's some connection I have here. I wasn't sure at the time, but I was really drawn to it. So I would go, a couple times a month for readings. And I guess it's 1991 now, I bought my first deck of tarot cards. So I get these tarot cards, and if you've ever seen a tarot card deck, you kind of open them up, and there's this little pamphlet that says, this card means this card means this, right? So I read it, and I can't do anything with it. Nothing resonates with me. This doesn't feel right. And it's kind of strange because, I sailed all through school. I could read a novel in half an hour, ace a test, but I can't absorb this little pamphlet of information. It's just not working for me. So I got frustrated, and those tarot cards went in the bottom of a jewelry box and stayed there for 10 years. Now, I jokingly refer to those 10 years as the long, dark years. Because I was going through some stuff, right? The most important thing about doing this work, we are all imperfect beings, right? But this is light work, and you have to be in a good place spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to get your mind, your body, and soul in a place to welcome this type of work in order to make connections. So I was not there for about 10 years. After those 10 years, I started getting my life together, and an opportunity arose where another psychic invited me to do this psychic fair. We had talked. I told her about my cards. I agreed. I don't know what made me agree, right? Because I've never done a reading in my life. I don't even know what those cards meant, but there I go down to this event, and I'm sitting at this table, and a lady comes up to me and she wants a reading. Now I'm in full panic mode because I don't even know what to do. So I take out those cards and I start nervously putting them down in a circle. And then I notice, oh my God, it looks like there's all this space. Let me throw some cards in there. So I start putting all the cards down. I use all 76 cards without saying a word. So the lady looks at me and she says, are you ever going to say anything? I was like, oh my goodness. All of a sudden, I just looked down at these strange piles that I had made. And it was like this pulse of electricity came through the top of my head and went through my body. And I looked down and I started saying these things. And they were very, very accurate things, very specific things. I remember to this day, telling her that there was something about a family secret that came to light, and there was like a legal paperwork, and she'd had to travel somewhere in Europe, and I see a lawyer and this sum of money coming to her. And she tells me, she's like, I'd say mid 40s, maybe early 50s at the time. She tells me she just found out she was adopted, and her biological father had passed in Europe. She was communicated by a lawyer with legal paperwork, and she has to take a trip to Europe, and she's getting this big inheritance. So everything I had said was pretty accurate, and I had gone on and given her more information, and she was like, wow, that's a great reading. So that's how I started reading, just kind of like trial by fire. Interestingly enough, I read with that same exact deck, the original one that I bought in 1991, and I read the same exact way. So to this day, I couldn't tell you the meanings of the tarot cards. I just work with my spirit team and team of light to, see what you need to know and what can help you. So after about 10 years of that, all of a sudden, I start hearing again, and I'm hearing names. And when I'm mentioning the names, everyone's saying, well, that person's passed. And I'm like, well, what's going on now, right? So again, I still didn't really explore psychics or anything, astrology or stones. I just kind of did what I did, right? And so then I said to myself, something's going on here. So I happened to see a medium that came to the Sarasota area, and I'm sitting in the audience, and I'm thinking to myself, Connie, I think you're a medium. And so I started like researching some mediums. I took a few classes, maybe a handful here or there, just to kind of say, what does this look like? What are they doing? And then as I started doing that and developing, I sort of just, my natural born gifts sort of resurfaced. They came back. So now I'm clairvoyant or clairseeing, I'm clairaudient or clairhearing, I'm claircognizant or clairknowing, and I'm also clairsentient or clairfeeling. So I do the readings. I'm a medium and a psychic. Talking about the Netflix series Surviving Death, about 4 years ago, I did become certified by the Forever Family Foundation. So I volunteer my time with them and do grief retreats, which are so incredibly transformational. I can't even tell you in 3 days what it's like to see someone come so immersed in grief and to leave after 3 days knowing and feeling so much better and being able to carry on and take a little chunk out of their grief knowing that their loved one is still with them. So to me, that is just so fulfilling, and I love to do those retreats. And I also volunteer my time for Signs of Life Radio and do on-air interviews and live messages. And I have my practice here in Florida where I do live readings, phone, Zoom, FaceTime, in-person events, charities, fundraisers, and all sorts of things. So that's me in a nutshell. I know I talked a lot.
No, wow, that it's always such a joy to be sharing space with someone who's had these direct experiences and is able to teach and facilitate from the depths of those experiences. It's such a clear signal of your connectedness with the beyond, right, and your ability to speak on its behalf.
And I did go on my tangent. I forgot to mention the third NDE, which happened right before I did start doing that tarot reading. It was another reaction post-surgery, reaction to medication. But that came, it was almost like a dream state where I had a visit to the other side. I was dancing with some young children, maybe 3, 4 years old, like a Ring Around the Rosie type of dance, but I don't know what I was singing. And then all of a sudden, this man came towards me, and being brought up in the Catholic faith, he looked to me as if what Jesus would look like, and he came towards me, and he asked me, if I was happy there. And I said, oh, I love it here. I'm so happy. And I continued to sing and dance with these children. And I looked around and I said, well, but where are my children? Because I had 2 young children at the time. And he said, well, it's not their time. And I said, okay, and I continued singing and dancing. And then he asked me again, are you happy here? And I said, oh, yeah, I love it here, And then I looked around again, but where are my children? And he says, it's not their time. And he said, and it's not your time either. You have yet to become who you were meant to be. And then I woke up. So, I've had these experiences and messages and sort of touches on the other side, 3 times. I hope I'm not a cat and have 9, but, I've come to realize that, this work is important. I have fully embraced, who I am, the gifts that I have, and how I can help people. I left my full-time corporate career last January so that I could focus on this full-time, because it's time. It's needed. The world needs this.
Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. So something you mentioned that, and this is something I picked up on as well from when I watched Surviving Death, and which I thought was a really wonderful demonstration of mediumship mediumship in practice and helping me to bridge the gap myself of what there is, like, an association of mediumship and psychic mediumship in
Right.
particular, physical mediumship, just in general, as not being necessarily something that is concrete or of concrete practice in the healing domain. And I want to engage you to help bridge that gap for us, because in the documentary, they expressed specifically that the purpose of mediumship is for healing. It is
Right.
to return us to love.
Right.
And oftentimes there's this association with mediumship as being some woo-woo
Right.
scam artist job, right? Now, I
Correct.
want to give you this floor to help us understand, how is it that mediumship actually is a healing modality, and
Sure.
how does it actually serve our spiritual mission to return us to home and to help us remember who we truly are?
Right. Sure. So, first of all, it's unfortunate that the few pay the price for the many. So, I would caution everybody out there, do your research. There are a lot of fraudulent psychics and mediums, and that's just the way that it is. So, please do your research and vet the mediums the proper way. Um, and anyone that's vetted through the Forever Family Foundation is a qualified, medium that's been vetted. Um, so I'm going to use myself as an example of the grief healing process. So as I mentioned, my dad was an immigrant from Italy. I was raised Roman Catholic, went to Catholic school. Okay. Um, Interestingly enough, as I did this work, I had not experienced grief. So here I am as a medium giving readings, but I had not really experienced true grief myself until my father passed. And it was interesting because the morning that he passed, and I had started embarking on, my career, getting more into the mediumship. I went to go to my mom's, to console her and make arrangements. And I was getting into my car, and I just looked up to the sky and I said, Dad, I need to know you're okay. Give me a sign that you hear my voice. Let me know you're okay. I got in the car, I turned on the radio. The first thing I heard was the song by Madonna, Like a Prayer. And the words were, I hear your voice. It's like an angel calling. I have no choice. I hear your voice. And I thought, oh my goodness. And it sent chills right through me because I knew, that was my answer. So I thought about it and I said, what if I thought about the way that I was brought up to believe, right? We die, we go in the earth or whatever, and we go up to heaven and we frolic with the angels amongst the clouds, right? And that's the end of that. And then what's left of us are our pictures and memories for our loved ones that are left behind, right? And I thought about that and I said, if that's the way that I continue to believe, that's great for my dad. I'm glad he's happy in heaven, and dancing around with the angels and all that. But what does that do for me in my grief? Because I miss him and I want to know he's still with me. So having this belief and the proof that our loved ones, once they leave their physical bodies, don't go away. They're with us. They just exist in a different form of energy, so to speak. Okay. And that to me gave me the comfort to know that I'm not alone. He didn't leave me. My dad is still with me. And there's signs, and people get signs all the time. And so I feel him, I hear him, the songs that I hear. So, this is how this helps with the grief, to realize that we weren't meant to go through this life here as physical humans alone. We were here to learn a lesson. We're here to enlighten ourselves and raise our vibration. And we need to understand that as we go through that process and our process as humans ends, we still continue and evolve as spiritual beings. So our consciousness continues to exist. And it makes a difference there's no way the things a medium, a qualified evidential medium could know. If you're talking to a mother that lost a young child and you're bringing them their name, you're describing their favorite toy, you're giving them the address of their street, you're describing a particular photograph or their last words or their last memory, their last meal, something that only they would know, or the famous code words, right? That everybody has, like the code
Right.
words.
Yeah.
So like how else would you know that unless you're communicating with someone that's giving you that information? So it's very healing, and I know there are a lot of clinical psychologists, grief counselors that are, coming around more and more to the idea that, and I'm not saying traditional grief counseling doesn't work. I'm not saying that at all. But I think there is more now of an open belief that there's something more that's needed. Yes, we need those tools for traditional grief support and counseling, but we need that belief also that our loved ones are still with us. It's just important as human beings that, it's our hearts. It's who we are. It helps to mend them. So I think it's very, very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think I asked that question because I think having authentic providers to speak to this will help us bring this into the healing conversations in a more mainstream way.
Right.
And I think it's just one now at a time, one conversation at a time, one session at a time. We'll continue
Absolutely.
to be able to bring this modality into the conversations of the modern household. And I mean, I just would like to share a comment of my own in context of this, but what you are doing in the services you provide and how you are able to prove the unprovable, if you will, to show people the ungoogleable
Yeah.
by helping them to actually connect, right, in a way that is beyond doubt, to showcase the continued existence of the consciousness that is their loved one. It shows that there is no death, as when death is defined as the end of self, right? And
Correct.
that fear of death is the one root fear that is the stem of all of our dysfunction that makes up our egoic mind and causes us
Right.
to believe in illusions and act insanely. So when you're able to help people to connect with those beyond this physical existence, it helps minimize or perhaps even eliminate that fear of death so that we can live from a state of peace, a state of love.
Right.
And that is the most healing thing there is, because now we're seeing things as they are, not as how we think they are. We're
Right.
removing that veil and we're able to understand the true nature of
Right.
existence.
And
So the work you do is so powerful. That's the affirmation I want to extend.
yeah, and it's not only about the grief aspect, because the healing comes forward. There may have been a situation where a person had a parent or someone else in their life that wasn't kind to them or was abusive in some manner. Here is the opportunity, and this happens all the time, when the person comes through in a reading with an apology. Where else would you be able to get that kind of healing and closure from trauma that happened in someone's life, from after the grave, right? And that happens so many times. It's the perfect opportunity. The loved ones and spirits, they know they've had their life of review. They've seen the error of their ways. And so many of the readings are, I'm coming with an apology. And that is a really, truly powerful healing mechanism, because how else would they have gotten that? There's no way that they would have gotten that. So that's another aspect of it. And also with questions, people often carry a heavy heart with people that they've lost and they couldn't be there, or they didn't make it in time, or, you know, all sorts of things that they have regrets about and they carry guilt about. And here is the opportunity to go through a medium that can, you know, that person would come through, you know, and set their mind to ease and forgive them and tell them that's okay. I understand. It was okay, you know. And
Yeah.
so there is so much healing from these readings. There
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So let's dive into, you know, the different types of packages, offerings you provide then, you know, in context of this mediumship, um, you know, for the world. And can you just speak to what you currently have today? Do you offer this on a one-on-one basis? Do you do it online, in person? You know,
Yeah.
do you do group sessions? Just speak to, you know, your offerings a bit
Yeah.
here.
Yep. So I'm very versatile and flexible. So yes, I offer private sessions online, Zoom, FaceTime. If you're international, then of course it would be Zoom. Phone calls. I do not need to see you to do a reading. This is all energy related. All I need to do is hear your voice. So that's the way that it should work, and it does work. And then I also offer group sessions. I do private group events in people's homes. I do corporate functions. I do charities. I do fundraisers. I do retreats. So I do it all. I have to say, I really do love getting in front of the bigger audiences. And the reason why I like that, one, because I'm a social person and, you know, working from home, it gets me out, but that's one thing. But two, you know, that's where you're going to find your skeptics. Those are where, you know, the husbands that get dragged along because the wife said, oh, you got to come with me, or a friend that doesn't really believe in it. And those are the ones that I can really, you know, change their minds. So that's what I like. I want to be the person that starts changing people's minds to say, hey, this is real. This is, you know, this is believable. So that's why I enjoy the bigger groups like that. But I
Got it.
offer them all. All my information is on my website. I am happy to travel. If anybody wants to organize a large group, I'm happy to travel and hold an event. You know, I'm working on getting a calendar, getting for the end of this year, next year, to start doing a tour, so to speak. So got a lot of things in the works.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice that we're finally, it seems, coming into a time of existence where, you know, we're able to receive these types of offerings and services uh, more and more, you know, accurately, in terms of being able to see them for the value that they offer, the healing value, the ability to help us return into balance, into wholeness, um, and, you know, understanding the way that energy works, because that's really all this is, right? It's just the ability to work in a multi-dimensional level, and being able to bridge the spirit with the physical. And the more in tune you become yourself, the more natural mediumship appears. So it's nice that we're finally blossoming as a species in terms of our own energy ascension, so that we can actually start to vibrate on a level that receives mediumship. So I'm optimistic for the future of this modality, and I think that it really has a valuable role in the way in which we can help facilitate healing, both on the
Right.
individual and collective levels. Um,
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So look, one thing I like to end with, Connie, is just a bit of you know, asking you to share any type of guidance or advice or insight that you'd like to impart on the community, and of course through your intuition, but anything that may come to you in this moment that you feel could serve others on their journey.
Sure. Well, you know, a couple things. You know, what I want to say is, if you're thinking about doing, you know, or consulting with a psychic or a medium, and I guess I want to talk more about the mediumship because of the grief aspect. I want to just let everybody know that they should be ready to do that. Okay, so if you're still deep in your grief, it's probably not a good time to connect with the medium, because what's going to happen is you're going to be closed off to information coming through for you, or not ready to receive it. Okay. So you've got to get to a little bit of a place where you're a little bit getting comfortable and you're ready to receive the information. So I caution people about that. And everybody has their own timeline. There's no right or wrong answer to that. But it's very important to do your research and really connect with someone that's been vetted, because you could get a reading by someone that is not of a good character, and it could be very detrimental, and kind of just maybe undo any of the progress you may have made with your grief. So we wouldn't want that to happen. So it's a very delicate subject, and I want people to understand that, everybody is going to sort of embrace this in their own time, in their own way, and that's perfectly okay. The other thing is that, having said that, it's also important that as we kind of go about our daily lives, it's so important to look around and realize that you may be standing next to somebody that's just trying to get through the day because they've lost somebody, or they're struggling, or they're grieving, and you would have no idea because they're just doing their best to keep it together. So I always tell everybody, be kind. Be kind as much as you can. A little kindness goes a long way, right? So it's kind of like, the act that just keeps on giving, right? It'll just keep going round and come right back to you. But there's a lot of people hurting and struggling. And these last few years especially have been very, very tough on a lot of people. So I think we're coming out of that, and I feel the energy shifting, and I feel a bit of a lightness coming our way. Just be conscious of the people in your surroundings. So.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what last question I'll ask you, just because it's relevant here. You mentioned doing, encouraging people to do their research and to, go through their own vetting process to feel good and aligned about whoever they're working with. Do you have any names of resources that you'd recommend? I know the FFF Foundation, where you were certified through the Forever Family Foundation, I believe.
Yeah, and also, the founder, Bob Ginsberg, wrote a book called The Medium Explosion, which details, how you go about looking for a good medium. But, it's going to be, this is the type of thing where, your reputation speaks for itself. So word of mouth, trusted people that have had readings with other readings that, other mediums that have been very valid and meaningful to them. So just, I wouldn't just randomly, Google somebody and pick them if you don't know anything about them. Just try to get a little bit more information and look at their reviews and try to get some background on them for sure.
Okay, great. Well, awesome. Connie, this was an incredible conversation. Really just exciting and enlivening on so many levels, and
thank you.
I'm looking forward to helping you to further extend this modality to our community and beyond. And for those who tuned in here today, thank you for being a part of this conversation. If you're interested, you can learn more about Connie on her website, of course, but also in our member forum, where she'll have a more detailed bio, direct booking links, discounts, and all that good stuff. So please do check it out there. And Connie, this is just the beginning. Looking forward to much more.
Thank you. Likewise, I'm very excited. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, talk soon.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.